All right, so welcome to tonight's lesson. Under this lesson, we're going to discuss analytical geometry and under analytical geometry, these are the things that we are supposed to look at tonight. But because of time, like I said, we'll only discuss a circle. Yeah, and this same topic, analytical geometry, in some other books, it's called conic sections. All right, so it's one and the same thing. All right, so this video, immediately I'm done recording, immediately I'm done teaching, I'll send it back to the group so that those that have missed the lesson because of the network challenges that we had and also other issues, maybe some of them were not able to get me and they decided to leave the meeting. So I'm going to send this link, this video back, in the WhatsApp in the group immediately I'm done teaching. All right, so like I said, we'll only discuss circles tonight. Then the next session that we're going to have, we'll proceed with the ellipse and parabola, and perhaps we'll also do the hyperbola. Yeah, so like I said, this is not a very long topic. It's a very short topic, so will not take a lot of time on analytical geometry. All right, so these are some of the numbers that you can use to contact me on WhatsApp and Telegram. You can use these too. And apart from that, if you want to make any payments, you can use any of these bank account details. And make sure that you just send me the screenshot of your transaction or give me a direct call to inform me that you've sent something. Then I'll add you to the new groups which I have created. All right. So let's start first by discussing what a straight line is. So a straight line, I believe everyone knows what a straight line is. So I'm just going to show you the mathematical presentation of a straight line, which I believe all of us learned in high school. Yeah, so we know to say the straight line is, the straight line has the general formula, which is y is equal to mx plus c. Yeah, so mx plus c, this is the general equation for the straight line. And we know to say m is simply just the gradient. So m is the gradient of the line. So m is the gradient of the line. And it's given by the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So given the coordinate, given two coordinates, x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2, you can find the equation of this line. Yeah, given two coordinates, a and b lying on the same straight line. Let's say, for instance, you have something like this. You have point A there. You also have point B there. Then if you have these two coordinates, A and B, and then you've been told to find the equation of this line. The first thing that you need to do is to find the gradient by using this formula here. Then after finding the gradient, you can now find what is known as the y-intercept. So C is called the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is simply just a point at which this line cuts the y-axis. So for instance, if we have the x or y plane like this, so this is the x-axis, and we also have the y-axis. So at this point where this line is cutting the x-axis, this is where we have this constant c. So this is where the point c lies. So if we have 2 here, if this is 2, it means that here you're going to have 2. That's what it means. All right, so that is known as the y-intercept. And then apart from that, you also, I think this is what you just need to know about the line. I don't know if there are questions here, because I believe most of us learned this. Yeah, so that's why I said a straight line is something that is straightforward, and I believe and we are not going to spend much time on the straight line. So what you just need to know about the straight line is the general formula, which is this one. So here we can have a plus or minus, there's no problem. Some books, they will show plus or minus, some of them will show plus. Yeah, so it's one and the same thing. Yeah, so this is the general formula for a straight line. So let's take an example. If you have, let's say 2 points, point A, which is 2, 3, then you also have point B, which is 4, 5. Then they ask you to find the equation of the line joining these 2 points. So the first thing, like I said, if you have the first thing, like I said, you need to first find the gradient of this line. And how do you find the gradient? I said the gradient is denoted by m and is found by this equation, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Yeah, so this is how you find the gradient. Why are we finding the gradient? Because we know that the general formula is mx plus or minus c. So the sign in between here is determined by the intercept there. Okay, so this reminds me of one thing. So this reminds me of one thing. The equation of a straight line can also be found using another equation. If you've just been given 2 points and you don't know what the y-intercept is, you can also use another equation, which is y minus y1, which is equal to m then x minus x1. So this is also another equation that you can use to find the equation of a straight line. Okay, so if you have not been given the y-intercept, or if you don't want to sketch the line before finding the equation, you can use this equation here. So at the university level, you will not be tested on finding the straight line. I'm just trying to make you understand of what we are going to be discussing under circles, parabolas, and hyperbolas. Yeah, so you need to have these equations. All right, so this is the equation that we're going to use. So if we say this is our x1 and this is our y1, this is our x2, this is our y2, we are supposed to use this equation. All right, so the general formula of the equation is this one, meaning after simplifying this equation here, we are supposed to get something that looks like this one. So let us quickly do that. So like I said, the first step to doing that, or the first step to finding the equation is you first find the gradient. So our gradient will therefore be equal to, so our y1 is, our y2 is 5, so we write 5 minus y1 is 3. Then over our x2 is 4 minus our x1 is 2. So when we do the subtraction there, 5 minus 3 gives us 2, then 4 minus 2 also gets 2. So our gradient is 1. So our gradient is equal to 1. So you can therefore find the equation. So the equation will therefore be equal to y minus, our y1 is 3. And we say this is equal to, the gradient is 1. So we put our 1 there, open brackets, x minus x1. So our x there minus x1 is 2. So we put our 2 there. So we're going to say y minus 3 is equal to 1 times x, we get x, 1 times negative 2, we're getting negative 2. So we take this to the other side of the equal sign so that we have y being equal to x minus 2 plus 3. And this gives us x plus 1 as the line. So we can see that this is in the format of our general equation. So our general equation is this one. And we know that the gradient is what? Is 1. That's why we have the coefficient of x there as 1. And this is our y-intercept. So this is a very simple thing, and you don't expect to be tested on this. So let's quickly move on to our main focus for tonight. So tonight, like I said, we're going to discuss circles. So a circle, we all know what a circle is. At high school, we define a circle as a locus of points which are equidistant from the center or from a fixed point. Yeah, so what that means is that you have, a circle is simply just points, a locus of points which are equidistant from a fixed point which we call the center. So the center will be denoted by C, and the distance from the center to these same points here is the one that we call the radius. Yeah, so the general formula of a circle is simply this one. So before we look at this one, I would like us to first look at the simplest version of this equation, which is when h and k are 0. So the center, in other words, is, okay, let me just do this to help you understand. Okay. So I was saying a circle, we all know what a circle is. This is how it looks. Then it has the center there. So the center is denoted by C. And then this center, we expect this center to have coordinates, of course, because we're dealing with the XY plane. So these coordinates are the ones that we call h, k, h and k. Yeah, so these are gotten from this same equation here. So you get the center of the circle by equating what you have in the brackets there to 0. So when you equate x minus h to 0, and you also equate y minus k to 0, you get the coordinates of the center. So x is therefore going to be equal to, when you take this h to the other side of the equal sign, you get h there. Then when you take k to the other side of the equal sign, when it goes this side, you're going to get k as one of the coordinates there. Hence, the center of this circle becomes h, k. And then what you are seeing this side is the radius. So if you have been given something like this, x, okay, let's take, for instance, if your center is 0, 0. So if the center is 0, 0, that implies h and k are zeros. So meaning if you put a 0 there, you also put a 0 there, you just remain with what? X squared plus y squared is equal to, let's take, for instance, the value of r at this side is 25. So if they tell you to discuss something like this, they tell you to discuss this equation. They will not tell you whether this equation is the equation of the circle, is the equation of the parabola, hyperbola, and ellipse. No. So just by looking at it, you should be able to tell that this is a parabola, this is a circle, this is an ellipse, this is a hyperbola. Yeah, so you need to know them by heart, in short. They will not give you these formulas. So if they tell you to discuss something like this, it means that the first thing that you need to find is the center. So if they tell you to discuss a circle, the first thing that you need to find is the center. So in this case, if you equate x and y to 0, you get 0, 0 as your center. So you have 0, 0 as the center. Then the other thing that you need to find when you're discussing the circle is to find the radius of the circle. So how do you find the radius of the circle? The radius of the circle, we know that the general formula of the circle is here. And whatever that you have this side is the squared of, is, the radius squared. So to find the radius of the circle, you say r squared is equal to, you get what you have this side. You write it this side. So now to find the value of r, you get plus or minus 25, because when you square root both sides, you get plus or minus 25, rather plus or minus 5. So if this is what you get as your radius, you are not going to get the negative part of this solution. You have to get the positive one, because the radius is simply just the magnitude or the absolute value of the square root of what you have this side. So that's why some books you find it written like this. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So the radius will therefore be equal to, let me just write 5 this side. So the radius is 5. So when they tell you to discuss a circle, the first thing that you need to find is the center. And then after finding the center, you also need to find the radius. So the radius is 5. So after finding the radius, which is 5, you also need to find, you also need to sketch. So after finding the radius and the center, you now need to sketch the circle. So meaning you have to put it on the x or y plane. So if the radius is 5, it means that you are going to move from the center, which is 0, 0 here. So from the center, which is 0, 0 here, you move 5 steps going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you also move 5 steps going this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you draw your circle like that. Then you indicate the radius there. From there to there is 5 units. Or you can just leave it like that. Or you can just say this is R. Yeah. So this is how you discuss the circle. It's just as simple as this. All right, let's quickly look at some examples. Okay, so this is what I was just talking about. That's the center there. So let's look at some examples. So some books or some lecturers who ask you to find the center, radius, center and radius of the circle, and also to sketch the circle. But some books will just say, describe the following circles. So whether they ask you to find the center, radius, and sketch the circle, or they say describe the circle, it's just one and the same thing. So if they say describe the circle, you have to make sure that you find the center, the radius, and also you sketch the circle. So now let's look at this one. So this is, I think, the example that I'm just talking about, which is simple and straightforward. I've talked about this one. Let's look at the second example. All right, so we have this example here, which is x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 9. So how do you discuss such a question? So this is a very simple question. The first step, like I said, you find the center. How do you find the center of this circle? You equate what you have in brackets there to 0. So we're going to have x minus 2 being equal to 0, and also y plus 3 being equal to 0. So when you take this to the other side of the equal sign, you have your x being equal to 2. You also take 3 to the other side of the equal sign, you have your y being equal to negative 3. Hence, the center is 2, negative 3. And then after finding the center, we can now find the radius. So now how do you find the radius? We get what is this side and we equate it to r squared, because we know that the general formula of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So since what is this side is squared, we are going to equate what is this side to what is there. So we'll have something like this one. We'll have r squared being equal to 9. And the value of r, if you square root both sides, you get the square root of 9 this side, and r becomes 3. So after finding the radius and the center, what you need to do is to sketch the circle. Yeah, you're going to sketch the geometry. So we know that our center is 2, -3. So I'll know that my circle will be somewhere this side. So this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. So this is the center of the xy plane. Then from there, we can now move 2 steps going to the positive side of the x-axis. So I'm going to move 2 steps, that is 1 and 2. So I'll have 2 there and 1 there. And then from there, I'll move 3 steps going down. I'm trying to locate where the center is. So here what we are doing is sketching. We've not been told to draw. Remember, there's a difference between you drawing something accurately and sketching. If they tell you to draw something, you need to use, if they tell you to draw a geometry, you need to use something like a graph paper or geometrical instruments to draw something that is with the given units. Yeah, but in this case, we've just been asked to sketch. So when they tell you to sketch something, you don't have to do it using the actual units or the actual dimensions. You just need to write something that at least looks like it. Okay, so we move we move 3 steps going towards the negative side of the y. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have -3 there. Then we have -2. We have -1. So I'll also write 1 and 2 there. Then I'll also write 1 and 2. Of course, these are supposed to be negatives. So now I'm trying to locate the center, which is 2, -3. So 2, -3 will be somewhere there. Yeah, because this is our -3 and that is our 2. So now we are to draw, or we are supposed to draw the circle with the radius what? 3. So the radius is 3, meaning I'm going to move 3 units going this side, 3 units, I'm going to move 3 units going this side, 3 units going this side from the center, 3 units going up, and 3 units going down for me to draw that circle. Yeah, so I'm trying to simplify things because a lot of people find challenges just doing this, more especially when it comes to drawing the ellipse and the hyperbola. The parabola and the hyperbola, okay, for the parabola, yes, most people manage to do that, even the circle. But for the ellipse and the hyperbola, you need to find a lot of things for you to describe that. There's also a part, or the part where you need to find the eccentricity, need to find the focus. You need to find a lot of things, and we're going to discuss that. Yeah, so here what we just need to do is to move 3 steps going to the right, because we're drawing a circle with the radius 3. So move 3 steps going to the right. We have 1, 2, 3. So we have 3, 4, 5. So we're going to have 1 point there. Then we'll also move 3 steps going up. We have 1, 2, 3. So we have another point somewhere there. Then we'll also move 3 steps going down from the center. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have -4, -5, -6. So we have another point there. I'm just trying to locate the points where the circle is going to pass. So we'll move 3 steps going to the left as well. So we have 1, 2, 3. So I'm just trying to locate the points there. So drawing this circle, therefore, be like this. So it has to pass through that point. Oh, sorry. So you don't have to be accurate. What you just need to show is that you know what you're doing. Okay, though it doesn't look like a circle, but it's a circle. All right, so this is my circle. It looks like an ellipse. Yeah, but this is a circle which we are supposed to draw. So these are the most important steps that you need to follow when you've been told to describe a circle. Yeah, so the first thing, you have to identify the equation that you've been given, whether it's a circle or an ellipse or hyperbola or parabola. So I'm going to show you the general formula, the general formulas for the parabolas. Yes, Cecilia, you have a question? Can unmute yourself and ask, please.
Yes, sir. Why are we starting on what's this? Why is 3 our center? Or -3?
Why -3 is the center is because that's our center. That's what we found as the center here. If you check, our center was 2, -3 from
So,
these. Okay.
all right, yes, I get.
Okay. Yeah. So let's quickly do the third example, which is, I think, our last example. Yeah. So sometimes you'd be given something like this, which doesn't even seem to be one of these equations that we have. It doesn't even seem to be like one of these equations that we have already discussed. So you can have something like this, which is just totally different from these two. So now, how do you handle that? Remember quadratic equations. So there was a part on quadratic equations, which was called completing the square method. So this is what you apply here to assist to know whether this equation is a circle or it's an ellipse or hyperbola or parabola. So you have to apply completing the square method. So let's quickly do that so that we do assist. We know what this geometry is. And we also describe it by finding the radius, the center, and other things that are needed, and also sketching it. All right, so how do you complete the square of such an equation? So first of all, we put the like terms together. So I'll put those terms with x together. So we have this and that. I'll put them together. We have this and that. Then we also have y squared there. So I'll say plus y squared, then minus 2y like that. And I'll take this -6 to the other side of the equal sign to become +6. So after doing this, I'll now begin to complete the square of these two here. So the first thing that we do when we are completing the square is, Isaac, please look at your phone properly. You are about to start writing on the screen. I've seen something here. All right, so I was saying we begin to complete the square of these terms. So what do you do when you're completing the square? So if you have anything this side, first of all, you factorize that. But in this case, we don't have anything in front of x and y. So there's no need for us to factorize. So what do we do next? So the next step when you're completing the square method, when you're using the completing of the square method, the next step after factorizing is dividing, finding the half of this and also finding the half of that, and then squaring them. So we find half of 6. When you find half of 6, you're going to have, so let me write what I'm saying here. We have x squared and x squared plus, and then finding half of 6 is, finding half of 6, this gives us what? 3. So 6/3, let me just do this. So finding half of 6, this will give us 3. So half of 6 is what? Is 3. And I'm going to square this. Immediately after writing this, you make sure that you repeat the same thing, but you subtract the same thing. In other words, you do this, and then you say plus 6y, oh, sorry, 6x. And you do the same even for this one. So you're going to say, plus y squared, then half of -2 will give you what? -1 squared. Then you subtract the same thing again, -1 squared. And then we write minus 2y. Then we say this is equal to 6. So kindly after meeting, you should post the video in the group. All right, no problem. All right, so After doing this, the next thing that you need to do is to simplify this. Now we complete the square. So we are going to have x, and then say plus 3 there, we put them in brackets, and then say minus 3 squared, we write 9 there. And then after doing this, we omit that. Then we do the same even for y. So say plus, in the brackets there we have y, then we have -1, so put -1 there, we say squared, then we say minus this part here, -1 squared will give us what? 1. Then we say is equal to what? 6. We forget about that immediately after doing this. So we can pair the like terms. So we have x plus 3 squared, and that part there, which is y minus 1 squared. Then -9 and -1, when you add them, you get -10. And this is equal to 6. So we can write this as x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 6. When you take this to the other side of the equal sign, you have plus 10. So the meeting is about to cut because mostly Zoom only goes up to 30 minutes. So once it cuts, you should join using the same link so that we finish up this question. This is just the last question, then we're done for tonight. Yeah, so this part is now going to be equal to x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared being equal to 16. We can see that it's now in the format of a circle, which we can describe. All right, so let's quickly join using the same link so that we finish up describing the circle.